The pre-trip inspection is an inspection of the vehicle and all of its major components. Inspecting the vehicle before driving each day is a requirement by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the FMCSA, and on average takes about 15 to 30 minutes. You will be doing a thorough inspection of the fifth wheel system, vehicle lights, engine compartment, tires, brakes, the chassis, the fuel tanks, and an in-cab inspection with a brake check. Items you'll be checking include all hoses to make sure they are not leaking, frayed, or sliced, and the fluid levels, including the engine oil, coolant, and the power steering fluid, are within range. You will also find the steering system, the front suspension system, and the front brake system. You must also check components like the water pump, power steering pump, and the alternator. All components of these systems must be properly mounted and secure without anything being cracked, bent, or broken. Moving to the walk-around, you'll be checking the tires, rims, and axle seals. Make sure the tires are properly inflated to the manufacturer's specifications, and the tread depth is not less than 4/32 of an inch. The rim isn't bent or cracked, and the lug nuts are properly secure, and the axle seals are not leaking. While on the walk around, make sure to check the lights, including the left turn, right turn, four-way flashers, high and low beam headlights, license plate light, and driving lights if equipped. Check the mirrors, door hinges, and body for any damage. Check to make sure there are no signs of leaks on the exhaust, and there's no fuel leaking, and that the fuel cap is secured and is not missing. He's going to check the drive shaft, catwalk, and steps to make sure nothing is cracked, bent, or broken. He's going to check the frame and cross members for structural integrity. He's also not going to forget to check the electrical line and air lines to make sure they are properly mounted and secure with no signs of wear, bulges, or cuts. He's going to check the suspension, brakes, and tires on the drive axles, making sure nothing is damaged and that the brake pad thickness is no less than 1/4 inch at the center of the shoe. He's going to check the tire tread depth is not less than 2/32 of an inch. He's going to make sure the airbags are properly inflated, inspect the brake chambers, slack adjusters, and push rods are properly mounted and secure with no damage. Check the fifth wheel and the apron of the trailer to make sure there is no debris and nothing is cracked, bent, or broken. Also making sure there is no gap between the fifth wheel and the trailer while the tractor and trailer are coupled. Make sure the kingpin of the trailer is properly seated and not cracked, bent, or broken, and that the locking jaws of the fifth wheel are properly secured when the tractor and trailer are coupled. Check the mounting bolts where the fifth wheel attaches to the frame, making sure there are no missing bolts and that everything is secured properly. Check the locking pin if you have a sliding fifth wheel to make sure it's properly locked into place. Make sure you're checking all the lights and reflectors on both the tractor and the trailer. Check the reflectors and reflective tape to make sure they are properly mounted and secure along with the tractor mud flaps. You will start inspecting the trailer at the headboard, which is the front wall of the trailer. Make sure there are no holes, missing rivets, or any other damage. Check the frame and cross members under the trailer to make sure they are damage-free. Check the tandem frame and release pins to make sure the frame is in good condition and the release handle and locking pins are in the fully locked position. You will check the entire suspension and brake system for the trailer tandems following the same FMCSA standards as before on the drive axles. You will also make sure the mud flaps are properly secured. Check the rear door and hinges to make sure they are properly mounted and nothing is damaged. Make sure the door seals are not worn, torn, or dry rotted. Get inside of the trailer and look for any types of holes or signs of water indicating any leaks. Check the landing gear to make sure it is properly mounted and secure with no damage. Make sure the landing gear is fully raised and the handle is secure in the cradle when the tractor and trailer are coupled. The in-cab inspection and air brake check will cover the several gauges and systems inside the cab along with a few tests to make sure your air brake system is working properly. Once in the cab, you will start by checking the seat belt, making sure it is properly mounted and secure with no damage and that it adjusts and latches properly. Next, you'll check the emergency equipment like the fire extinguisher, making sure it is properly mounted and secure and fully charged. Check for the reflective triangles, making sure there are 3 of them and that they are functional, and check for your spare electrical fuses. Now you start the tractor and check all your gauges, including the voltmeter, oil pressure gauge, water temperature gauge, and air pressure gauges, and that they all show proper operation. Make sure the city horn and air horn function properly. Check and make sure the windshield is clean with no cracks that are intersected by another crack, and there are no chips that are bigger than 3/4 of an inch, and that you don't have 2 chips within 3 inches of each other. Make sure your mirrors are in proper adjustment for you and are clean with no obstructions. Make sure the windshield wipers and washers are working properly and are damage-free. Check the heater and defroster are working properly. For the air system checks, place the transmission in neutral, apply the parking brake, and stop the engine. Take note of the air pressure reading and wait for 1 minute. The air pressure must not drop more than 2 psi during this minute. Now release the parking brake and wait another minute. The air pressure gauge must not drop more than 2 psi in this second minute. Reapply the parking brake, and this completes the static leakage test. With the engine still off and the parking brake released, apply the service brake firmly and hold. The initial drop in air pressure must not be more than 10 psi. After the system settles, continue to hold the pedal down for 1 full minute. The pressure should not drop by more than 3 psi in this minute. Reapply the parking brake, and this completes the applied leakage test. The low air warning system test is to test that the low air warning system is functioning properly. Start with the engine still off, release the parking brake, apply and release the service brake repeatedly to reduce the air pressure. When the air pressure gauge reaches 80 psi, turn on the master control switch, but do not turn on the engine. Continue reducing the air pressure until the low air pressure warning light and buzzer come on. This should occur between 75 and 55 psi. Continue reducing the air pressure. When the system air pressure reaches about 20 psi, the parking brake knob should pop out to indicate that the emergency brake system has activated the spring parking brake. Now you will conduct the parking brake check by setting the trailer brakes and releasing the tractor brakes, and then tugging lightly on the trailer. Then set the tractor brakes and release the trailer brakes, and tugging lightly on the tractor. Neither of these tests should allow you to move. Once completed, it's time to test the service brakes by releasing both the tractor and trailer brakes and putting the truck in gear to move forward at idle speed, and applying pressure to the service brake, making sure you come to a complete stop without pulling you to the right or left while braking.